way, the head of Public Policy at Institute of Economic Affairs, Matt Lesh, is alongside me, as is, I've just been mentioning, the contributing editor at Novara Media, Michael Walker. Let's talk protests, shall we? Apparently now the police are set to have more powers to arrest protesters if they're wearing a mask, if they're climbing on war memorials, or if they're kind of taking these flares, so basically a form of fireworks, to protest. What do you make to this, Matthew? Do you think this is the right move? Is it necessary?
Look, I think as a premise, we should respect the right to protest and people should be able to express themselves on the streets. There's an obvious need here to balance that with the level of disruption that is caused. You don't have an unlimited right to block the streets in central London at infinity, nor do you have a right to disrupt certain public spaces or climb on war memorials. I mean, it's unclear to me why the police necessarily need new powers. We have this quite a lot from the government where there's some public authority not quite performing in a way they'd like, and rather than sorting out the managerial issues that have led to that, they say, we're going to create a new power, we're going to change the law rather than ensure the existing laws are enforced. I think if someone is being disrupted or protest, there are already plenty of laws that can be used against them. And I'd like to see those laws used before adding additional ones to the statute books.
Michael?
I mean, some of these seem impractical. So in terms of face covering, what do you do if someone's, very worried about COVID and they're wearing a face mask, or if it's winter and someone's wearing...
Tell them to stop being so ridiculous?
Well, I mean...
Sorry, I'm being facetious. Go on, sorry.
Yeah,
I apologise.
There are clearly practical problems with that, because I think... So at the moment, it is the case that the police can be given the right to say you should take off your face covering, and then if you refuse, then they can arrest you. They've already got that right. So what this will be doing is saying, if you're covering your face, they can immediately arrest you because you've committed a crime. Now, you can see how that would be... What about religious
face? What about if you're at a protest wearing a religious face covering?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be incredibly difficult to police, isn't it? So I'm not sure how practical this is. I would say at the same time, because, I actually agree with everything Matt said there. I do think, I think people have the right to protest, but people also have the right to go about their days,
is there a limit
their day
there?
in a sort of usual way, and we sort of debate as a society where that line should be.
But where is that line? Because I know that you're quite passionate about the pro-Palestine protests that happen pretty much every single weekend now. Should there be a line? Should people be saying, the police be saying, right, you know what, enough now, you've done it every single weekend, or not?
Well, I think it's difficult to say enough now when what I think is a genocidal war is still going on, right? So, I mean, this is the International Court of Justice that it's plausible.
Court of Justice has not concluded that there's a genocide.
They haven't concluded. They've said it's plausible.
Well, you can say anything is plausible, but it's an absolutely absurd claim. There is no urban warfare in human history that has led to fewer deaths than what is going on in Gaza right now. The Israeli military spends more effort than anyone else ensuring that civilians have the opportunity to get away from where there's gunfire. If you want to blame anyone for a genocide of Palestinian people, it's Hamas, who are literally hiding beneath them and firing rockets at civilians, and went in October 7 and in an effort to mass murder Jewish people. Now, that is an attempt at genocide.
Do you think when Yoav Gallant said that we need to...
It doesn't matter what Yoav Gallant says. Well,
it does matter what he said, because he is the defence secretary. It does in terms of international law.
No, but he's not the one managing the operation in Gaza. He's not the one in charge of the day-to-day actions.
He's the defence secretary. He's the defence secretary.
No.
He is in charge of what's going on in Gaza.
His rhetoric is not what matters here. What matters here is what actually happens on the ground.
OK, so what's actually happening on the ground? 26,000 people have been killed. 11,000 children.
How many of those are Hamas fighters? Probably about 10,000. How many of those have been hit by Hamas rockets?
11,000 children have been killed. About 70% of buildings in Gaza have been completely destroyed. Now, the Hamas figures, right, or the figures from the Gaza Ministry of Health, they are accepted by the UN. They're actually accepted, this was in an Israeli newspaper recently, they're accepted by the Israeli intelligence. That's the best numbers they've got. And in every past conflict, they have turned out to be true. Right, so this idea that we can... People are seeing the pictures as well.
It's not 26,000 civilians. It is a large number of military fighters, including those who...
11,000 of them are children, right? No one is disagreeing that 11,000 of them are children.
If you want the carnage to stop in Gaza, it's actually very simple. Hamas needs to hand back...
So what you're describing now is collective... What you're describing now is collective punishment. No, that is the definition of collective punishment.
There is the fact that Hamas uses children as shields as they try to fight.
So there isn't actually evidence about using them as shields.
There is absolutely evidence of using
Obviously, it's urban warfare, but I think you're also misaligning or misrepresenting what is the stated ambition of these Israeli politicians. Because Netanyahu isn't standing up there and saying, I want to get rid of these terrorists so we can have a two-state solution. Netanyahu is saying, we want to completely destroy Hamas so the whole place can be Israel. That is his stated policy. That is his stated policy. He stood up at the United Nations and held up a picture of the whole of Israel and Palestine and said this will all be Israel.
The intent is quite clear here, which is to remove the threat against Israel.
So you had an advisor to the Defense Secretary who said, what would be a good idea is if we allow diseases to spread, because that will hasten the process whereby everyone leaves Gaza. You've got the Interior Minister and the Economy Minister, so two very high positions in the government, who are both speaking at conventions where they talk about resettling Gaza. Now, that is absolutely against international law.
I don't agree with any of that. I think that is extremely
So do you think they should be fired from the cabinet?
I do. I'm not an advocate for the Israeli government.
Why don't you think they have been fired from the cabinet?
Because it's a democratic polity that requires a broad coalition to form government.
What if the polity of Israel, what if the Israeli people want to kill lots of Palestinians? Because all the polls suggest that's what they want. They want to go even harder.
Hang on, interesting point there to make, interesting time to take a break.